Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, The Real Truth TV. I'm the Couch Kumara, aka Clever Sausage, and every day around about 4 o'clock New Zealand time I'll bring you a brand new video in relation to the three major religions and what they're telling you, okay, exposing it where it needs to be exposed in order to present you with the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, according to the ancient original manuscripts in the original languages, written down and spoken by the Old Testament scribes and prophets, known as the Assyrian Aramaic, Kitab Asherit, found in the Talmud, or Kitab Asherit. Okay, the old scribal tongue, or the old tongue, aka the Lishana Atika or Cypriot in the Assyrian, translated into English, and also the Galilean Aramaic. But mainly I'm going to cover the Old Testament because I've studied this website years ago, but unfortunately it was taken down, as I mentioned in a previous video, and I found a way to access that even though it's down. Yeah, it's a bit of internet research and came across something that helped me to do this. Okay, so this is Victor N. Alexander, the translator of the original Assyrian Aramaic Old Testament manuscript, the text, okay, and also the Aramaic New Testament, the Galilean Aramaic New Testament in English. So my main, as I think I stated, my main focus is the Old Testament, because there's a lot of things in there that people don't understand, that they've never heard, okay, and it will really help them, awaken them to the real truth of the scriptures, right? The true scriptures in the original languages, okay, the original language, Assyrian Aramaic or Asher. So this is the translator's mission statement on his website, which has been down for at least 7 years. Okay, and he stated on that website, 2,000 years after the apostles preached the faith in the name of Yeshua Mashiach, or Yeshua Mashiach, right? Jesus the Messiah. It is an opportune time to go back to preaching the same old faith preserved in the original scriptures and recorded in the language that Yeshua spoke, or Jesus the Christ, namely the ancient Aramaic language. Yeshua spoke in the Galilean dialect, as his heritage was from Nineveh in Mesopotamia. The mission of this website, va.com, was to rediscover the ancient Aramaic Scriptures, and he's trying to restore the ancient apostolic faith. Okay? The apostolic faith is not the same as the faith of Western Christianity or their apostolic claim, right? Their apostolic movement or church, which has been preached for the last 15 centuries in all the modern languages. The faith that has been preached in the English language was based on flawed Greek and Latin translations from the Hebrew of the Old Testament during the 16th century. You can have a look at a video called The American Bible Society and Their Lies on YouTube, and it'll verify that. The Hebrew version of the Old Testament scriptures were translated into Greek and Latin from the beginning of the Roman Church. Again, you can look at that video. It's all there. When the Emperor Constantine made Christianity the faith of his empire, this was around the 5th century AD. The New Testament was translated from the Greek translations a few centuries after the Apostolic Age. The Greek translations of the words of Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Christ, Jesus the Messiah, Mashiach, were never accurate, because they were based on the pagan philosophies of the Greeks at the time. The Greek language and civilization, their thought process and wordings were based on the secular knowledge of the pagan era. Subsequently, the Roman Church translations from the Greek and Hebrew were based on the pagan culture as well. So the errors kept multiplying until the English translators, such as William Tyndale and the German translator Martin Luther, came along and added their twist on what the scriptures should be saying. All this tinkering with the scriptures ended up being transmitted via the newly invented Gutenberg press across the world. In the same way, the internet has opened up the path for a myriad of interpretations of the scriptures, as thousands of people have jumped into the fray. This website, va.com, represented a return to the ancient Aramaic scriptures that Yeshua Mashiach read from in the synagogues of Judea 2,000 years ago. The apostles of Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah, also recorded the New Testament scriptures in their own language, which was the same as Ancient Aramaic language, same as the Ancient Aramaic language of the Old Testament. Okay, he's made that mission statement in July 22, 2012. Translator note: the Western translators of the scriptures did not mistranslate the scriptures because they did not know the language or out of ignorance. They deliberately distorted the scriptures and modified them to fit their plans to usurp the authority of the scriptures. They were not after the authority that Yeshua, Jesus, gave his disciples and apostles. They were not interested in the truth. They wanted only the authority of the high priests, the Pharisees and scribes who had condemned Yeshua, or Jesus the Christ, to death. They took that authority from them and turned around and blamed them for crucifying Yeshua, when in truth it was their ancestors, the Romans, who had crucified Yeshua and no one else. Of course, it was a few high priests of Jerusalem who had called for Yeshua's death, but it was not them that actually did the crucifying. So this authority that the Roman Church claimed to be their own, and subsequently the authority that the Protestants claimed to be theirs as well, was only for the sake of making money. It was not for the sake of spreading the true gospel of Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Messiah. The real authority that Yeshua had given his disciples and apostles, was passed on to the Eastern churches that the disciples and apostles started over a period of 2,000 years. The remnants of these churches are still in the world. However, they are ignored and even betrayed by the Western churches. The very scriptures that these churches have preserved have been ignored by the Western churches. The American churches have also gone to the trouble of mistranslating the scriptures, and you can see that video I mentioned again, the American Bible Society and their lies. It's all there, it's all evident. The American churches have also gone to the trouble of mistranslating the scriptures of all these nations for them. These people are not even aware that the American churches have published the false Bibles in all these languages for the sake of making them part of their empires. The way the American churches have managed to win over these churches is by giving them free copies of these Bibles. They are published in all the languages in existence, and they are all conformed to the American versions of the Bible. So they are modern Americanized copies or versions, not original manuscripts. They are told to go ahead and sell these Bibles to raise money for their own churches. How can they refuse? Can they throw it up in their face? They do not even know what is going on. The calamity is so great that no one can possibly believe that the falsifiers of the scriptures have actually convinced everyone that the Greek original is the authentic scriptures. Victor N. Alexander only found out after translating a few books of the Old Testament and realized that the American churches will never own up to the fact that they have totally falsified the scriptures and that there is no returning back from their path. They have passed the point of no return. What are they going to say? That we have been falsifying the scriptures for the last 100 years for the sake of making a profit? They're not going to say that. So after 10 years of waiting for them, the translator Victor N. Alexander have to just say it plainly. The Western churches have received their recompense. It was the kingdom of this world that they wanted. They wanted, just like the Pharisees and scribes at the time of Yeshua, Jesus the Messiah, and they have it now. They can enjoy it while it lasts. In fact, they are not even embarrassed. They say, we are in the business of God. What Victor N. Alexander is providing here is an authentic translation of the true scriptures, the scriptures that the disciples and apostles of Yeshua have preserved for us. Victor N. has provided sufficient portions of the translated scriptures for people to read freely. He has also provided video and audio files explaining his translation methodology. Methodology. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, translator's notes. The translation of the scriptures comes from a small Apostolic Church, the Ancient Church of the East, a church that disappeared from the map during the Middle Ages. Yet, because of that, it retained the original scriptures intact. There is almost nobody left that can read this language. See, notice he said almost nobody. A language that is no longer spoken. However, it is a language that has given birth to thousands of languages, because it is the original language that the Lord spoke from the beginning of recorded history. Okay, that's what he states. Okay. But yeah, using common sense and logic, if the Sumerians had the very first writings and scripts, and then the Egyptians adopted and adapted it, then yeah, I think he's incorrect there. Yeah, to be honest, because yeah, these are supposedly the descendants of the Sumerians, the Akkadians, the Babylonians, and whoever, right? Okay, so yeah, the Sumerians. Well, he says that the original language given by God or spoken by God to men, right? And the first language that they had one language, and it was the Aramaic. Okay. So yeah, that's probably what he's hinting at. Okay. Yeah, because it is the original language that the Lord spoke from the beginning of recorded history. So, in the desert region of Shinar, when they were building the Tower of Babel, that one language that they all spoke, that was supposedly Aramaic. And then God busted down the Tower of Babel, according to Genesis, and then confused them with different languages, and then scattered them all over the earth. Okay. So therefore they had different languages. Okay. It is the language in which the doctrines of the scriptures were nurtured. It is called Ancient Aramaic, but it is not Aramaic in the modern vernacular, nor is it Hebrew, nor any other designation that might imply that it belongs to a special group of people. This is the language that the Lord chose. It is the language in which He taught. It is the language He read from. It is the language the apostles spoke, and it is the language in which the scriptures were compiled. This is not pride in language. The language is politically dead. There are no Aramaean people today. There never were any such people. There were only Aramaic speaking people. This was the language of the world in biblical times. The ancient Aramaic of the times of Joshua or Jesus ceased to be used as a literary language in the 13th century. It exists only as a liturgical language, and now is the language of this translation. It was never was the language of a single race of people, nor was it the native language of any nation. It was a language free of national boundaries. This translation is in English because it is the language in which the world has chosen to communicate. The language of the scriptures must never become subservient to English or any other language. The English language must never be allowed to be the sole vehicle for the scriptures, because this is how false pride, prejudice and racism begin. As the language of this translation, English is a window to the scriptures. The scriptures can be viewed through this window, but the window must not be broken, made into a door or a gateway into a new interpretation, hierarchy or religious order. October 16th, 2011. Okay, okay, have a look at this here. Okay, here's some current essays that he's done, or July 25th, 2012, and so on. It's that one word can take you to a completely wrong interpretation of the scriptures. Okay. More about the language of the scriptures. The ancient Aramaic scriptures are now accessible because of the translation project. Here you can read the words. That's at the website www.va.com, but it's down. So Katskumara Clever Sausage is bringing you it. Okay. Through these videos, through this channel, the ancient Aramaic scriptures are now accessible because of this translation project. There, you could have read the words of the Lord and the sacred writings of the prophets. They are all translated from the original language of the scriptures, the language Joshua, Jesus spoke 2,000 years ago, the language of the Jewish people, the ancient Hebrew or ancient Aramaic. This is the language that modern day theologians refer to as Aramaic. Victor N. Alexander has simply identified this language more clearly than the American churches and the Western translators of the Bible. It is wrong to call this language merely Aramaic. Aramaic is a modern language like modern Hebrew, Arabic, Persian, etc. Many languages of the Middle East and the rest of the world in fact have evolved from this first language, the first language ever spoken on earth. Therefore, the language of the Scriptures should be identified as Ancient Aramaic. It is necessary to call it ancient, otherwise everyone can deny that the Scriptures were originated in this language, the language that the Creator of the universe and Lord, that we call our God in the English language, spoke when he walked the earth. This is the language of Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joshua, Jesus. It has gone through thousands of years of evolution. The ancient Aramaic language of the Scriptures is no longer a spoken language, and the last time it was used as a literary language was in 1300 AD. Today, the ancient Aramaic remains only as a liturgical language. There are a number of Eastern churches that still use this language in their liturgy. In order for the people of the world to start learning about the Scriptures' truth, everyone must come to understand that the Bibles being disseminated today are mostly translated from the English language versions, or they are conformed to the Protestant and Catholic Bibles from various languages. These are all translations that have been modified as a result of centuries of wars and genocides. Okay, again, I suggest look at the video on YouTube, the American Bible Society and Their Lies. Okay, there's two versions there of that video. Try to find a better one, graphic wise. Okay, in order for the people of the world to start learning about the Scriptures' truth, everyone must come to understand that the Bibles being disseminated today are mostly translated from the English language versions, or they are conformed to the Protestant and Catholic Bibles from various languages. These are all translations that have been modified as a result of centuries of wars and genocides. Thus, the Bibles of the Western world are not accurate. These Bibles have been leading people astray for 2,000 years. All one has to do is read Victor N. Alexander's translations that have been made directly from the ancient Aramaic Scriptures into English and compare them to all the other Bibles, and it will be clear that this is an authentic translation. Okay, I've done that, and I've come to realise that it was a hell of a lot easier for me to understand many questions I had. It answered. Okay, it's like, supposedly the churches tell you there's only Adam. First there was only Adam and Eve, nobody else, and then Cain and Abel, no one else. But then Cain gets banished into the land of Nod, or wandering, and he says, okay, God, it's bad enough that you sent me away from your presence, from your face, from your sight, into this other land. I shall be a nomad wandering in that area, right? But yeah, the danger is if somebody finds me, they'll kill me. So he puts a mark on him, a special mark that will sign that they find him, they can't kill him, right? It's protected by God, etc. So there was other people in that land, and where did they come from, right? The myth about Noah's Ark, I read it, and then through my own personal research study, I found with the cuneiform text from the Akkadian, the Sumerian, the Akkadian, and the Babylonian. It's a very different story. Okay, it's all mythical, but Irving Finkel, I think that's his name, Irving Finkel, he translated those Babylonian cuneiform texts, and there's instructions there on how to make this ark, or this coracle, right, that they still use apparently in Wales. It's like a round rubber tyre boat, right, made of all these leaves and twigs, etc. Bitumen, whatever. Okay, and he actually shows the finished project floating down this river with it in it. And it's very round, looks like a big black tyre. Used to hop in, or blow up tube, right? And used to swim in when you were a kid, if you ever had a swim when you were a kid at the beach. Okay. Many different things, like, Cain goes into the other land, and apparently he goes there with a wife. Where did his wife come from? Okay, it doesn't tell you that they had daughters while they had Cain there, right? So he didn't marry his sister, he found her in the other land, right? Okay, amongst those people. Okay. This is the only one that has been made from the Ancient Aramaic Scriptures without prejudice. It is made available to you from that website. Well, you could probably try get it on and get through PayPal. Okay, probably order it or Amazon. Okay, about the schism. When the Roman Church established its authority in the West, it abandoned the Eastern Scriptures that were recorded by the apostles in the Ancient Aramaic language. I already read that, covered that in a previous video. Okay, what's to say? The ancient Church of the East, which was not part of the schism between the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Churches, ended up in Persia, and later its apostolic faith spread as far as China. And yeah, I read about that. The one in the Middle East, yeah, it had ties to the Roman Catholic Church, but then it broke away. There's some disagreement, and I can't remember the head of that particular church in the East. I can't remember his name, but I know he woke up and realised, because they persecuted this one in Urhai, in Edessa, in modern Turkey, and then he come to realise after this guy Ma Isai Shamun was assassinated, I think. Not too sure on this one. He come to realise, what he was doing, and then he ended up splitting from this one in Middle East and going to this one in Urhai. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah, so he refused to have any association with the Roman Catholic Church and all this sort of stuff. None of their Mary worship. The ancient Church of the East, which was not a part of the schism between the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Churches, ended up in Persia, and later its apostolic faith spread as far as China. The church was under constant persecution from the 4th century onwards. Its presence was not discovered until the 17th century, when interest in biblical archaeology brought it into the open. Today, finally, the ancient Aramaic scriptures, retained by the remnants of this church, cannot be ignored. Okay, there's some altars and stuff. St. Thomas Church, one of the earliest churches of Christianity. That's the one that was established in China, and then Urhai, Edessa, modern Turkey, China, and all over India before these disciples were martyred, chased down and killed. Okay, so let's see if we can see anything else here. Current essays attacking Eastern Christianity. The disciples were no fools. Our God is a different God. One word can take you to completely wrong interpretation of scriptures, and so forth. Okay. Okay, let's have a look at this. Okay, here we go. I will cover these. This is actually the New Testament. I'm looking for the here we go. Here's the Old Testament, Genesis or Bereshit. I'm going to be starting from there because there's information in there that you have no idea about. Okay, here's the cover here. You can go and have a look at Victor N. Alexander's video on YouTube. The Aramaic Scriptures, type that in, and you'll see a video of an old man with a cap on right here, reading from the original manuscripts in a biblical format, a book format. Okay, I'm not too sure if you can still purchase it. You might be able to find it somewhere, Amazon or wherever. Okay, here's the Epic of Creation tablet, 1500 BC, Ashurbanipal Library, British Museum, London. Got some information here. Here we go. Here's the theory of the Aborigine. I'll be covering that at some point. Okay, did I go too far or? Okay. Creation. Genesis. Brita, or in Hebrew Bereshit, or creation is the real name of the book of Genesis. The word comes to us from the scribal language of the Jewish people. This is the name of the first book of the scriptures in the Hebrew Aramaic language. They were sister languages until one was altered, modernized, right? So that way it changed the structure and the meaning of the words. They had the same words and same meanings up until it was modified by certain parties, and as I said, it changed the structure, therefore changing the meaning of the words, because they added a vowel system as they did with Islam and the Quran. Okay. You must now be a supporter of this translation in order to read it online. Okay. Now you can also order it. Yeah, probably through PayPal. If you really want to give it a try, I think it's about 30 or 40. Maybe on Amazon it's there. Yeah, because you pay a bit extra, I suppose. I'm not really sure about Amazon. Don't use it that much. This translation is made from the Book of Genesis in the Ancient Aramaic language, from the oldest manuscripts copied by hand and passed on by the original scribes and monks of the ancient Church of the East of the 1st century of Christianity. It clarifies some of the biggest misconceptions about the Old Testament regarding creation, Adam and Eve, and the coming of the Messiah. See, that's what I covered. I'm pretty sure I covered that. Okay, his translation of the Old Testament also utilizes the cuneiform manuscripts discovered by archaeologists in Mesopotamia in the late 19th century AD. The Assyrian king Ashurbanipal. Okay, Assyria is Assyrian. King Ashurbanipal, during his 7th century BC reign out of Nineveh, sent out emissaries to the southern region, the land of Shinar, Sumer, and Chaldee, Babylonian, in search of the ancient epics such as the Epic of Creation, which included the story of Adam and Eve, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which included the story of Noah and the flood. He had them translated in the modern Assyrian language of his day. However, the originals were 3,000 years older, but also in cuneiform. So they tell a completely different story if you've ever read them. Okay, so I've come to understand, like many others have, that they've adopted them and then adapted it. Right? They've changed the names of the people in the stories and times, dates, whatever. Right? They've changed it. If you read those Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian cuneiform texts, or watch the videos on it, you'll see that I'm telling the truth. Okay, they've adopted it and then they've adapted it. Okay, where are we? Interestingly, the stories had been preserved essentially the same. Yeah, I got my doubts on that one because it gives different details. It's mythological. There's a lot of gods. It's not just one god. It's a pantheon. Okay, the names are different. Where the ark was on the water, it was 6 days, not 40. Different. Yeah, there's differences. Okay. Interestingly, the stories have been preserved essentially the narrowly interpreted. I'll read that again. Interestingly, the stories had been preserved essentially the same. Ironically, by the time of Jesus Christ, the scriptures recorded during the Babylonian captivity 5 centuries before had become so narrowly interpreted that the scribes and Pharisees failed to recognize Jesus as a Messiah prophesied by all those millennial religious records. Today, both Judaism and the Catholic Church have realized the contribution of the cuneiform tablets of the Assyri to the understanding of the roots of the Bible. The archaeologists Sir Henry Austin Leonard and Hormuzd Rassam discovered the Ashurbanipal library intact in Nineveh and created the 50,000 tablets to the British Museum in London. They are the pride of the British Museum, together with the oldest Ancient Aramaic New Testament, which dates back to the 4th century AD. I remember reading on his website, I think he stated he translated 30,000 of them, or from 30,000 of them. He's been around the world to all these different libraries, like museums, and he's found cuneiform texts, and he's translated them. Because he found that everyone else that translated them had it all wrong. They botched it. Okay. So I might just leave that there. I might go back actually, and oh jeez, what the hell's going on here? I might go back, because I don't know if I actually clicked on the Genesis. I might have clicked on the Exodus. I'm pretty sure I clicked on that. Yeah, okay. So what does he say? What does it say there? Okay, the next one I'll probably cover is the theory of the Aborigine. It's another important one. Okay, because this will blow your mind. It's not the Aborigine of Australia. Okay, what he means is inhabitants of a certain area or a certain region or land at that point, right? Okay. Yeah, like Neanderthals or hominoids. That's what he's referring to. Okay, you just have a little quick peek at it. He states he would have liked to have written a seminal book on this theory, but he can't take the time from his translation work to do it now. However, the usefulness of such a theory in explaining some major misconceptions in the Old Testament compels me, or him, Victor N. Alexander, to broach the subject here in an abbreviated form. It needs to be fleshed out more if it's purportedly to become a full-fledged theory of biblical anthropology. Victor N. hopes visitors to his website would find it thought-provoking, worthy of discussion and amplification. Unlike the theory of evolution, the theory of the Aborigine does not see a contradiction between science and the Bible. Okay. Yeah, this is what I first stumbled upon, and I laughed at it. I thought it was some young guy putting a fantasy, putting a prank, trying to be funny, get some attention, but I didn't realise it actually belonged to. There's more to that. The site, right, of Victor N. Alexander. Okay, the Aboriginal factor. So far, the word Aborigines has been almost exclusively applied to the Australian Aborigines. He thought the word Aborigine was a useful term and should be expanded in its meaning to apply to all people who have retained their Aboriginal qualities despite the encroachments of the so-called civilized world. Victor N. would like to redefine this term and utilize it in advancing this theory, the theory of the Aboriginal or the Aboriginal factor. So I think we might leave it there. So if you really enjoyed this video, then please subscribe below. Also leave your comments below and give us a thumb up. Show us how much you liked it. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. Give us a thumbs up. And if you get like a lot of subscribers, right, that are really interested in knowing the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, then we'll put up the next segment, which will be this theory of the Aborigine. Okay, I'll go through it because there's information that you never heard or you didn't know was in the ancient original manuscripts. Okay, I reckon it'll blow your mind. I tried to explain it to somebody else, but I didn't have this website to refer them to, and they just outright said it was BS. And they've never looked at it, they've never read it, studied it, and then done their own personal research to establish the facts, to prove it, right? To get hold of the evidence. Okay, because what he's saying, as he was saying, it agrees with science, archaeological, right, and the scientific community. But it doesn't agree with evolution. He does speak of evolution, but it means the cycle of revolution, the planets spinning and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so here, unlike the theory of evolution, the theory of the Aborigine does not see a contradiction between science and the Bible. It agrees with the archaeologists and the scientists, okay, about Neanderthal men. Okay, so we'll leave it there, and we'll come back to that in the next video. We'll see you then.